I just think that there's more to life than just being consumed and just fretting and worrying and just driving yourself to that point where you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. So, welcome back to the show. There's something that I really wanted to talk about because have you ever just felt like don't want to get out of bed and you don't really know why? Because you're just overwhelmed right when you wake up. And that's something I want to talk about today because it's happened to me one day this week and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And then it kind of dawned on me about all of the media that I've been consuming. And it was stressing me out. It was causing anxiety. It was causing me to really just kind of doubt, what the purpose was. And it was really demotivating. When I think back on it, it really made sense that I was spending so much time on my phone and on the news just to listening to everything that was going on in the world. And it was just coming down all at once. And it just really overwhelmed my brain. It overwhelmed my mindset. And it really just brought me to this place where I just didn't have the energy. And I was so fatigued that I didn't even want to get out of bed. So let's get into this. I think that we're constantly being inundated with information. And I don't think we really give the respect to that information and not the respect that most people would think about. I'm talking about the respect of understanding the power it has to really shape what you're thinking and shape your emotion and shape, right, your mindset for that day. And I think it's just so easy to use the excuse and the reasoning of wanting to stay informed because it's super important to know what's going on because, that is the thing that drives us, right? We seek information, but how much is too much? So I was doing a little research on this because it really bothered me. And I was like, I don't really understand like how much is too much, right? Why this morning was the day that I woke up and I just felt like, you know what? I don't have it in me to get out of bed and go to work and do the things that I need to do. And they said that 14 minutes of negative news has the power to put you in an anxiety-filled state, depending on what it is. 14 minutes. That's really not a lot of time when you think about it. There's 24 hours in a day, sure. There's the days that you sleep and you're going to be, distracted doing other things, but 14 minutes? I mean, to cause anxiety and cause you to be sad, it's depressing because you hear about all these things that are constantly coming at you. I mean, you can't even process the one piece of information that you're consuming before the next 10 pieces of information are being thrown at you. And I started to think, it's like, what kind of impact is that having, on my psyche, right? My subconscious mind. Because I think as like anything else, if it's not in moderation and you're over consuming information, then that information has to go somewhere. I mean, you're just not mindlessly just looking at it, not paying attention. I mean, your brain is bringing it in and it's storing somewhere. And I think as you get overflowed information in your brain, it's going to continue to build up until you get to that point where your brain is like, no more. I can't do any more information. So how does it release? Well, I think that, could be sad. You could get frustrated. How many times have you said, man, I have a short fuse today and you don't know why? Or better yet, you just don't want to deal with something. So you decide to be completely unproductive for the day. Or you just go out and, decide that you're just going to play hooky and do whatever the heck you want because, you think that, it's going to make you feel better. But what are we really saying here? If there's so much information overload, I mean, what can we really do about it? Because it does make you tired. It's kind of like if you were on the phone all day long, talking to people and you were having a long conversation. You spent hours and hours and hours. So what's happening? You're expounding, right? You're expending energy, talking to people. You're having to use your brain, to think about what you're going to say and how you're going to present information. And after that, you just don't want to talk anymore. You don't want to talk to anyone, let alone, the next person that wants to have a conversation. You're just talked out. So I think the concept is the same. When you get to a certain point of consuming so much information, your brain's like, stop. I can't do this anymore. So it has to come out in some form. So cortisol, people talk about that all the time. It's a stress hormone. So when you're watching these things that are getting you emotionally charged, whether it's anger or fear, right? Or being sad about something, or just, what are we going to do? Despair, whatever it is, right? Because it's like bring you up to this level. And then all of a sudden you're having this release because you can't solve that problem. Most of those things are outside of your control and you don't have the ability to do anything about it, but yet you're wanting to see what the problem is, but there is no solution, right? There's no solution that you can actually do, to fix that problem. All you can really do is emotionally respond to it. And I think that's the idea. So after a while, you're going to get fatigued and you're going to drive yourself nuts and you're going to burn yourself out. And that's what happens. And I don't know how many times I just want to sit and just stop watching the news, because the more and more I watch it, the more frustrated I get, the more irritated I get, or whatever that emotional response that's coming out, because I can't do anything about it, but yet I'm sitting here spending my time, right, away from the important things like my family, exercise, whatever that would be so much better use of time than consuming all of this information in that volume to be able to just be quiet and understand things. I mean, some of the most favorite times that I can remember where I feel centered is when I'm able to get up in the morning with my wife, read a devotional, read my Bible, and pray, and be outside, just enjoying, creation, and being able to just, feel the sun on our face and have that conversation and start my day that way without just being like just so antsy. And it's one of the most peaceful things that I have felt when we start our day that way. And I find myself having a much better outlook because I'm able to just rest in that. And being able to rest and have some peace and have the ability to, just really understand what's important and what's within my control and what I can't control makes me a lot happier than listening to, a lot of people just yammering and headlines and, all these things that are going on that are so messed up that I have absolutely no control over. So here's another thing that I like to do. I like to go on an information fast, just 24 hours. I don't consume any media. I don't consume information. I just literally try to be quiet and just enjoy life, enjoy time with my family, and just get out of it. And then when I start consuming information again, when it comes to the news, right? Because I know they're going to try to rile me up and pull me back in. I just limit it to 10 minutes a day. I can know everything that I probably need to know in 10 minutes a day because there's so much information. I can find out what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country, who's doing what to who. You can find it out in 10 minutes. And think about the information that you're consuming. I try to really think about when I'm listening to people, what benefit am I getting out of it? Is this something that's uplifting? Is this something that's positive? If this is something that's going to be meaningful for me, that's the information that I want to consume. I don't need to spend my time on negativity and being angry, being fearful, or getting frustrated. I just think that there's more to life than just being consumed and just fretting and worrying and just driving yourself to that point where you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. If you know someone who needs to hear or see this episode, share it with them. I'd love to start a conversation with you. Leave a comment. If you have time, rate the show. You can find us on YouTube at Hey Charles Biz, on Apple Podcast and Spotify on Hey Charles, Hey Charles 77 on Instagram and TikTok, and Charles Ernst on LinkedIn. See you next time.